Final Fantasy, the final frontier of RPGs. Final Fantasy, in my opinion, is the king of RPGs. Say what you want about some of their games, especially 8. Oh god, please don't remind me of 8. But generally, they consistently are able to shatter boundaries and make something truly unique. And I love myself some good old Final Fantasy. Fall in love with the job system and characters in 5, discover what depression feels like in 6, or stare at Sephiroth's bare chest in 7. Each game really has something to offer.
Now you say every game has something to offer, but what about Final Fantasy 2?
Hold on, I'm getting to that. Be patient. What is up with amazing, underrated YouTubers interrupting me when I'm talking? It's been happening a lot to me lately. Now, not too long ago, I decided to try my hand at playing Final Fantasy 1. Dawn of Souls, not the original. You know, I'm not trying to torture myself. And let me say, it was pretty fantastic. Beautiful pixel art and scenery, basic but good story, and a fun combat system. I thoroughly enjoyed my time with Final Fantasy 1. That's not even to mention the soundtrack. That menu screen theme got me out of a deep depression. It's basically just a free replacement for therapy. But for those of you who have played Dawn of Souls, you know it comes with another game. Final Fantasy 2. Say dramatically. Oh wait, no, that's not part of the script. My bad. Oh, my bad. In truth, I was very excited to play this game. I heard, not good things from reviewers, but I also saw a lot of people defending this game on YouTube. Plus, if the first game was so good, there's no way they could have fumbled it in the sequel, right? Right? God, this game sucks. I've held this opinion for a while, and I got about halfway through the game before I just straight up dropped it. There are so many flaws in this game that I can't even begin to describe. I see more flaws in this game than I see in myself whenever I look in the mirror. So that's how you know it's bad. But I just wanted to make a video about it. This will be decently long because I got myself to 1,000 subscribers, baby! I'll be replaying this game from start to finish, and I'll be nitpicking every single aspect of it along the way. Now keep in mind, I'm no game dev or anything, but I still know what I do and don't like in a game, especially in an RPG. So I'll be picking this game apart and analyzing every single thing it does wrong. So strap in, boys. This video is going to be insane. Long intro. Wait, no. Oh my god, I did it again. Sorry, that wasn't meant to be in the script. My bad.
I am so excited.
Now, when you watch my videos, you're probably thinking, Pixa, why are you so negative in your videos? Because I feel like it, and it gets views. I'll be replaying this game through the Pixel remaster because I kind of want a change of scenery, and also it's the most accessible version for recording gameplay. Plus, I don't have to endure the torture of playing the original release of this game. Oh man, I'm just shivering thinking about it. You poor, poor souls. The 80s must have been a tough decade. The Iran-Iraq War, Tiananmen Square, and Final Fantasy 2. So right off the bat, we're greeted with this pretty cool menu screen. Not too much going on here, just the logo and some beautiful music in the back. Alright, we're off to a good start already. Even if the font does look like it was made in Microsoft Excel. The game wants me to name my characters, which I only named Firion, Pixa, Firion. That's a weird name, Firion. I don't even know if that's how you say it. Stupid name. Sounds like the name of my old Sonic OC, which I still have a picture of on my fridge, by the way. But the rest of these dudes are meat puppets to me, honestly. Wow, that sounded really sociopathic. Once that's done, we're greeted with a pretty cool cutscene. Not bad, Final Fantasy 2. Even if most of this is just exposition, I really couldn't care less. This cutscene doesn't make me want to go file my taxes instead of actually sitting through it, so it's doing something right. After this cutscene, we're thrown into this unwinnable fight with these goobers. And let me tell you, these guys can't do anything to these horse dudes. So guess what, baby? We die. What idiots, even I could kick these dudes' teeth in. And I'm built like one of those inflatable noodle men you'd see in front of those car dealerships. Sadly, the game doesn't end here and I have to deal with more of this BS. After I'm revived, I'm greeted with more exposition from the Queen. We insist on joining the rebel army despite the fact that we're weaker than a cat with a hernia. This is when we're introduced to the keyword system. This system is dumb, it sucks, I hate it, die. Now keep in mind, despite this game looking all modern and stuff, it's still an NES game at its core, with its tedious mechanics, old school battle system, and lackluster story. The only difference being, it has a shiny new coat of paint on top of it, and I think the keyword system is the epitome of that. You'll basically learn a keyword from a certain character, then you can go around and ask other characters about it using the keyword. Sometimes, you'll need to ask about important keywords to progress the story, but my main issue is it's so shallow. This may have been cool back in what, 1988? But nowadays, guess what it is? It's a waste of time. And it's not even like you can go around asking every keyword and get unique dialogue from different NPCs or characters. Most of these keywords are abandoned and they're literally never used again. And 99% of the time, if you try to ask a character a keyword, you'll just get a question mark. They just stare at you like you're an idiot. Oh, I'm sorry I asked you about this thing that the game gives me an option to use. I won't inconvenience you next time by assuming you'd have something of value to say. Okay, so after I was done talking to the queen, I explored the castle a little, and I decided to head out. I'm not gonna lie, I was getting pretty excited. I'm supposed to hate this game, but I'm enjoying it a lot so far. I mean, it's the first, 5 minutes, but at least I'm having fun. Better than Final Fantasy VIII. That abomination. I don't even hate that game. I actually kinda like that game. I don't know why I'm talking trash about it. But so far, the music slaps, the story is pretty good, and the art is nice. Maybe this won't be bad. Maybe I was just overreacting. I decided to do some grinding as is tradition, and I was met with my first battle. It's really basic, as is expected, just like Final Fantasy I battles, but there's a twist. That twist being the level system. Now this game isn't like those other stupid, boring, archaic RPGs. This game is so unique and quirky. This game doesn't have individual levels. Instead, it has stat boosts based on certain factors in battle. Now they most likely did this to switch things up from the first game, which I can respect, but this game does really not achieve that well at all. You know the phrase, don't fix it if it ain't broken? This game is like the origin of that phrase, I swear. It's like a worse version of Final Fantasy Legend 2's battle system. Like I said, individual stats are gained based on things that happen in battle. So if you get hit enough times, there's a good chance that your health will increase after the battle is over. Or maybe your attack will increase after a certain amount of times you hit an enemy. It's so cool. In concept. Because this mechanic is so easily abusable, it's actually insane. Now you're probably thinking, well, just don't abuse it then. It's not that hard to play a game the way it's intended. And yeah, you're right. But that's still bad game design. I'm not sure if the devs intended for this mechanic to be abused, because they made this game at turbo speed. Seriously, I don't know how they made this game so fast. It's an anomaly. Work hours must have been hellish. But devs really aren't as clueless as people think. They know when a mechanic is easily abusable, like an FF3 remake, which is why the game is so hard, because they expected its mechanics to be abused. So I'm sure the devs knew about this, but there's also nothing discouraging you from doing this. In fact, I'll make a quick comparison. Final Fantasy Legend 2 does this level up concept better for a multitude of reasons. For one, even though each individual stat levels up just like in FF2, you can't beat the ever-living crap out of yourself to easily gain health. Each stat has value, but you also don't feel the need to go out of your way to grind for a certain thing as often. Furthermore, you can't fight easy enemies and get just as much of a reward out of it as you did fighting a stronger enemy. In Final Fantasy 2, there's no reason to fight stronger enemies, because enemies at the start of the game give just as much experience as those at the end. So what's the point? One must imagine a Final Fantasy 2 player happy. That's why at the start of the game, you can basically just get endgame stats if you grind for a few hours. Oh yeah, do you want to know what's even worse? Leveling up spells. I hate this with a passion. In most Final Fantasies, there are different variations of spells that are stronger than their predecessors, like Fire, Fyra, and Fyraga, Oh, but Final Fantasy 2 is just so quirky and different. It's not like the other Final Fantasies, so now spells have individual XP. And this sucks. You'll just be spamming spells over and over and over just to level them up. This isn't gameplay. This is child labor. And just like with most stats, stronger enemies give just as much experience as the weakest enemies in the game. So you can just spam spells against goblins and be full level before the second town if you really have the patience. It's absolutely broken. The only real thing that discourages players from becoming super OP before the second town is healing at an inn costs more than renting out an Airbnb. And you'll have to start grinding money alongside your other stats too. So along with the laborious task of grinding spells, you're basically relegated to a life of a wage slave. So me personally, I just got both Guy and Pixa to 1000 HP before heading off to the second town. Oh yeah, I want to mention that the overall theme is absolutely beautiful. And so is the battle theme. The Pixel remaster is doing a lot right so far. I wasn't a huge fan of the battle sprites at first, especially compared to the old ones in Dawn of Souls, but they're really growing on me. I also really like the way battles look. Seeing them in widescreen just gives me such a nice feeling. And this water has no right to look this good. I don't even know why they did this. Like, they had no reason to do this, but thank you, Square. Thank you. That's the one good thing you've ever done. My only complaint is the font, which I don't really have a problem with. Honestly, it's not that bad. Also, I find it really funny how when one of your party members is just down and you win a battle, your friends just ditch your ass. Oh no, you're incapacitated in the middle of the dangerous forest. Bye! Oh yeah, another thing regarding battles I completely forgot to complain about. Weapons are so unbalanced, like genuinely. I'll have more to say on this topic later, but early game fists are absolutely busted. This game lets you throw hands, and I think they severely underestimated the strength of the average human. Especially these twinks. Except for Guy, he's pretty strong looking. But these fists do over twice the damage of swords and axes. Imagine if that's how it worked in real life. All those medieval wars would just be giant fist fights. Man, imagine how deadly a bar fight would be. Swords are only really good for dual wielding, but they're inferior to fists up until a certain point. And axes are pretty chill. Still worse than fists though. Stabs are also, they're the forgotten child, you know, they're like the middle child of FF2 weapons. Nobody uses these. As you can see, this game is more shallow than my ex. Cheating. Oh crap, I accidentally killed myself. Crap, I did it again. God, I did it again, why?
I just can't do it. I can't take this man.
You know what, screw it. Auto battle it is. This is a pretty handy feature, eh? The game just plays for me. It's not even cheating because the game lets me do it. Alright, now I'm off to the next town with my 3 absolute powerhouses. I decided to let Maria's health level up naturally, as she'll die to even a slight breeze. That flat Stanley build. This minimap is really useful, by the way. I'm sure it'll come in handy in the future. Oh, side note, these character portraits are inferior to the ones in Dawn of Souls. Guy and Maria stand out especially to me. You can tell these are recolored versions of their SNES counterparts. It looks tacky. The rest are fine though. I decided to do some more grinding because I just remembered how tedious this game gets mid-game, and I want to avoid that as much as possible. So, I think you know what that means. It's montage time.
Pixa
Is my name, and fucking up motherfuckers is my game.
Okay, yeah, so enough of that. But for real this time, I progress the game and go to the 3rd town. I got my teeth kicked in by these guard dudes before figuring out I can go behind the town. I talked to a guy in the pub who's affiliated with the Resistance, and he lets us meet with a dying old man. The old man just starts yapping about some stuff I really don't care about. His wife or something, I don't know. Then he gives us this ring and he just dies. You wanna know what's the funniest part about this? Right when he's dying, we just get some over-the-top cheerful fanfare because we acquire his ring. Just listen to this. You have to see this to believe it. Trust me, it's actually hilarious. Yippee! We just acquired this ring next to a dead man's corpse. Our luck is really turning around for us, huh? So we go back to Altair and show the queen the ring. She delegates us to the task of finding a man in a town named Salaman to get some Mithril. Minwoo, I don't care enough to learn how to pronounce his name, joins our party for whatever reason. I have no idea. I was so tapped out at this part. She also gives us a canoe, which is obviously the superior form of transportation. Psh, who even needs an airship anyway? We've got a canoe, bro. I need to mention, this is when I realized how much backtracking this game has. Yes, there is a form of fast travel, but it's not an antidote to the problem. It's like putting a band-aid on an amputated arm. Like, yeah, maybe it helps a little, but my arm is still gone. You know, maybe I need to listen to my friends when they tell me I make horrible analogies. And maybe I need to stop making these stupid analogies. You get what I mean though. I go to Pavsk and it's absolutely beautiful. The water is what does it for me. This place is just amazing. I love it. I do more exploring on my way to Salaman. We go to Palum, a port city. Maria gets catcalled by a pirate and it makes me realize how useless this town is. At least we get to learn about airships and fast travel that costs money and is really inconvenient. Oh great, these guys repeat their dialogue. What an amazing game. What a nice way to remind me that this game came out when the Soviet Union was still a thing. Oh yeah, I just realized I can dual wield axes now. I do a bit of spell grinding because I'm getting a little too happy. I need to remind myself why I hate this game so much. And my life. I finally get to Salaman. What a beautiful place, man. I don't mean to get sentimental, but it reminds me of the winters I had when I was younger. It really just takes me back. I talked to this old dude who really hates slavery, so I decided to pull a Lincoln and free the slaves he wants us to liberate. I find the dungeon all on my own without a guide, which makes me really proud of myself. And I explore the dungeon a bit. Minwoo is dead weight. Look at the differences in our stats. It's night and day. He might as well just be our cheerleader. But seriously, why am I having fun? This game is supposed to be bad. Please, I don't want to have to change the title of this video to be something positive, because nobody's gonna watch that. Well, guess what? This dungeon sucks! That's actually not that bad. But it does have its issues. It's kinda barren. I know it's the first dungeon, but come on, be creative. At most, they just have these doors you have to choose from to find the exit. But the only repercussion to opening the wrong one is you're spawned in the middle of an empty room and may encounter an enemy. Okay, that actually is kind of annoying. But these enemies are weaker than a fly. I feel like a criminal for beating these dudes up. They stand no chance against me. It's like fighting your grandma. An evil grandma. Like, you know they're evil, but you still feel bad about beating them up. Didn't I just say it'd stop with these analogies? Yeah, I'ma stop now. Yo, hold up. This music kinda slaps. Hold on, listen to this. And the fog is gorgeous. The remaster just adds random effects like this. It gives the settings so much more life. Wait, I can't be positive. Oh. Hold up, I gotta say something negative real quick. This sprite is trash. Gross. I can make something better than that. And I can't believe they're already recoloring enemies. At least have the decency to do it halfway through the game, like in Dragon Quest. I get through the dungeon and acquire all the treasures thanks to the map, and I free all the slaves from their captivity. Man, I feel like Django right now. I've never actually seen that movie. I'm just making a reference even though I don't understand what I'm saying at all. But the boss doesn't like that, so I obviously beat him in 2 turns. The townspeople are happy that I abolished slavery, and my rewards are going back to... My reward is going back to Altair, apparently. Let's just hope this doesn't become a running theme in the game, because that would be really annoying. But you see what I mean? It's stuff like this. Every time this game starts to do something right, it self-sabotages. FF2, what is wrong with you? Why are you like this? At least add fast travel. I mean, for God's sakes, there's a teleport spell in the game. Like, come on, let me use it outside of dungeons or battles. Nobody uses the teleport spell in battles. You know what? Screw it. I'm gonna do some off-screen grinding because it's 1 AM and I don't have school tomorrow. Whoa, look at those stats. Also, Minwoo was dead. Side note, I was watching a really bad iceberg video while grinding. I was actually baffled by how bad it was. Like, remember elementary school where they forced kids to read books out loud and you got that one kid who can't read to save for his life? That's what the video sounded like. I was actually baffled by how good the reception of the video was. You know, I'm not salty though, you know, totally not. I just want the algorithm to stop screwing me over, you know? Plus, the dude who wrote the script got it off ChatGPT, so you know. At that point, just use an AI voice. It would just sound way less grating, honestly. Wait, I need to get back to the review. Damn, I forgot what this video was about. Whoops. Okay, so I go back to Altair to talk to the queen about the Mithril, and actually, I have a game for you guys. This is gonna come up a lot, by the way. Take a shot every time I say we have to go back to Altair. You'll be knocked out by the end of this video. Anyway, she tells us to go to Basque, so you know, I go there. During this, I grind out my protect spell, which in the grand scheme of things is useless. I make the treacherous journey there. I talk to a guard who looks suspicious, and he surprisingly doesn't attack us. In fact, he lets us talk to him. This is how I know this guy will let me progress the story. I use Wild Rose, but he just repeats the dialogue. I then use every keyword I have, but it still doesn't work. At this point, I was baffled. I genuinely thought the game was broken or something. I was genuinely contemplating scrapping the video because I did not want to restart the game. Look, I love you guys. I'm not playing this game again for you guys. I look at a guide to see what I'm doing wrong, and it turns out I needed to talk to a blacksmith before leaving. So guess what? We gotta go back to Altair. That's one shot for you guys. I get some Mithril armor and weapons from the blacksmith, and we head back to Basque. Man, why'd they have to make these names so hard to pronounce? Basque, Poft, even the names in this game are annoying. Anyway, the idiot guard finally lets us through, and we go through a 5 out of 10 dungeon. It's actually pretty easy, but there's nothing to note. Most of the dungeons in this game are forgettable and they all just feel the same. In fact, it's even easier and shorter than the last dungeon, and there's no boss at the end either. We leave the dungeon to try and stop the Dreadnought, but it's too late and they blow up a few towns. You know, usually I'd say I don't care, but these people force me to backtrack to Altair. So yeah, take a shot, by the way. You know what? Screw these people, dude. They're not even alive and they're still inconveniencing me. Oh yeah, I need to mention, this game is way darker than the first game. In fact, it's one of the darker Final Fantasies, tonally, not visually, obviously. It honestly feels like a beta version of 6, you know, if 6 were bad. The threat of the world coming to an end, people dying, in garbage dungeons. Actually, no, never mind, this comparison is cancelled. FF6 has good dungeons, for the most part. Except for the Cultist Tower, that dungeon makes me want to abandon technology and live the rest of my days in the wilderness. That sounds nice, actually. It'd be like Dr. Stone, except I'd probably get mauled by a bear like the first day. Anyway, back at Altair, I have to do some stupid keyword clownery. Okay, so I'm gonna give you this keyword, so you can go to the room and tell this person. Then I'll tell you this keyword, and you have to go back to the other person and ask about it. And I'll give you this other keyword, so you can ask other people about this keyword. It's horrible. It's making me question the existence of keywords. And God, what is the point of this? What am I doing? This feels like I'm running stupid errands. I'm not your messenger boy. Okay, now guess what? I gotta go back to Salamand. God, I wish this game had fast travel. Screw this, man. Screw these villains. They committed the worst crime imaginable, making me play more of this game. They're worse than Saddam Hussein. Okay, so I'm finally back at Salamand, and Jesus Christ, I have to backtrack to the first dungeon again? God, when will it end? We go to the dungeon and get a snowmobile to cross the snow area and get to the ice dungeon. Let me tell you, the snow area has a really cool battle background and actually looks pretty good. I blast through the dungeon and kill both bosses super easily. Brogan specifically was a really pathetic villain. He barely even did anything, and we kill him super easily too. And he kills the guy whose name I can't even remember by crushing him with a rock, so I guess he did something. At least we get some sad music that actually sounds pretty good. I barely stopped to listen to it though because I want to get this game over with as fast as possible. Sorry dude, I don't have time to mourn your corpse. We finally leave, and guess what? We have to backtrack to Poft. Oh man, do I love backtracking. It's my favorite activity. We take an airship to Kashan, and I actually got some flashbacks. Around this time is when I dropped the game entirely. I was just done, and honestly, good for me. Even back then I had standards. You know, unlike today because I'm playing this game. Anyway, yeah, I can see why I dropped this game here. What an annoying dungeon. Man, thank God for the map and the pixel remaster. I don't feel like pulling up Google for one. Before you get mad at me, if this game gets to be unfair, so do I. Screw you. Oh, I was saying screw you to the game, by the way, just so you know. Don't get mad at me. I get through this annoying dungeon and kill the boss pretty easily. The bosses being easier than the enemies in this game is gonna persist throughout it. Anyway, once we leave, we get to ride a Chocobo! Hell yes. Listen to this music. Look at this guy. How can you hate it? I love it. This game is finally getting good. Let's hope it stays that way. I don't even care that we have to backtrack to Altair, because I get to ride this thing. Look at that. I'm riding a freaking Chocobo. Oh yeah, take a shot, by the way. You know what? Life is good. This game is good. I love everything. Why'd he leave? Why'd he run away? Man, even that Chocobo doesn't want to be in this game. At Altair, we talked to Sid and found out the princess is gone and was taken to the Dreadnought. Just like me with my abusive ex, I came back thinking the game would have changed for the better. And the Dreadnought set a false precedent for the quality of this game when I came back. I remember really liking the Dreadnought when I first played the game. I'm looking forward to it a lot. So we get there and oh my god, this music absolutely slaps. The first thing we do when we enter is fight a boss, and he's actually pretty easy. It's pretty lame though, because it's a recolored version of an enemy and a recolored version of the first boss, so yeah. I have a small complaint. Doors mean absolutely nothing in this game. They're scattered everywhere, and 99% of the time, they lead to empty rooms, so don't even bother entering them. Plus, they're littered throughout every single dungeon. Anyway, the Dreadnought is actually as good as I remembered. I quite like the Dreadnought. It has a unique design compared to the other dungeons, it has a good theme, and it feels more thematically important to the story compared to the other dungeons we've gone through. I get to the core and I realize I forgot to save the princess because she was in one of the thousands of doors throughout the dungeon, so I have to go all the way back. I will say, despite liking the dungeon, the enemies can be horrible to fight. They're just really gimmicky. Like ghouls, which steal a crap ton of your health, or stunners, which they just stun you in battle. It's in their name. I like Helldivers though. They're easily my favorite enemy in the game. I just really like birds. Anyway, I go save the princess, then go back to the core and finally blow up the place. I gotta say, I thoroughly enjoyed this dungeon. I don't even mind that I had to redo it all over again. It's easily my favorite part of the game, and I don't think that's gonna change. Who knows? Man, if this game continues to be like the Dreadnought, maybe it won't be as bad as I remember. Spoiler alert. The game will only continue to get worse. I'm forced to backtrack to Altair, so take another shot. Actually no, hold that shot for a second, because I have some other plans. I grind out the protect spell, because why not? And I found a really neat way to do that with auto battle. So, you know what that means. It's montage time. Wait. Oh wait, you're telling me that if I do it too many times it won't be special anymore? Oh. Well, I guess not then. So I just watched a Fallout 4 video essay while grinding out the spell. Man, I can't wait to play Fallout 4 once I'm done making this video. And I actually go back to Altair this time, so you can take a shot now. And oh my god, the king is dead. You're right, Gordon, we should save our tears for another time. For when I beat this game, because I'll be crying tears of joy knowing I'll never have to touch this heap of garbage ever again. Anyway, we gotta go back to Palomino again. This is really ridiculous. You're lucky I'm not making you guys take a shot every time we have to go back to a place we've already been to. Imagine if in Final Fantasy VI, every time you finished a dungeon, you had to go back to Narsh just to be told to go to another dungeon that's even farther away. And you have no airship until the last hour of the game. We meet Leela, who is a pirate. We go on her boat. I know she's going to attack us, but I don't care. I could destroy your entire crew with the tip of my fingers. Surprise, surprise. She attacks us and I'll destroy her entire crew with the tip of my fingers. Didn't I just say I'd do this? This is what you get for not listening. After I destroy her entire crew, she decides to join us and lets us have this boat. Still worse than the canoe because it doesn't avoid random encounters, by the way. I just realized this is the only Final Fantasy with a canoe as a form of overworld transport. Weird. Anyway, the ship is actually a step up from walking, but it's still annoying to have to backtrack to places given the fact that there are still random encounters. Leela really goes to show how useless temporary party members really are, because you have no say on whether if they should stay or leave. They're always going to start off 10 times weaker than your party, and there's no point in leveling them up, because they're just going to leave your party anyway. So what's the point? It's a waste of time. And it's not like Final Fantasy VI where you can recruit them later on and switch out your party. They just ditch you when you can't get them back. They're weak, and they'll die if you don't heal them after every single battle. Maybe you should sit this one out, kid. It's for your own sake. Yeah, this game is really starting to get on my nerves even more. We get to Castle Dees. Why do they make these names so hard to pronounce? And this is where old me said, I'm not playing this garbage anymore. I miss the Dreadnought, man. Let's see if I can pull through this time. We go to Castle Dees and talk to this dumb kid and his mom. They talk about a wyvern, but I really wasn't listening. I just wanted to run her errands and be done. Plus, this little chore is going to serve no plot relevance in the future, right? Of course not. We go into a mediocre dungeon and get a wyvern egg. We then backtrack out the dungeon and back to the castle to show the wyvern the egg. We then have to go back to the dungeon to put its egg in a spring so it will hatch. This is the worst part of the game so far. It makes me want to quit everything, like just life in general. And yet again, this dungeon has these stupid doors that do nothing. At least this boss is easy. Easier than the actual enemies. Actually, it's not even really a boss. It's just 4 regular enemies, and for some reason it's classified as a boss. Okay, so I have a quiz for you now. I'll give you 3 options to choose from. When we're done, what do? We 1. go back to Castle Dees and rewarded for putting the egg in the spring. 2, we go to a new town and meet a new NPC. Or 3, we go back to Altair. If you said 3, we're going back to Altair, baby. Take another shot. We come to see the princess and she tries to, wait, what? She tries to seduce us in bed. Don't kids play this game? Okay, I guess. I'm not even mad about like this part. I just don't want to see pixels screwing each other. Turns out that she's a succubus and I gotta put an end to her. I beat her in less than 2 turns. At least her design was good though. The real princess got kidnapped again. What is this? A Nintendo game? God, that joke was so lame. Gordon joins the party again, and say it with me now. He is useless. Now we have to go to the Coliseum. We're forced to fight this behemoth. I beat him in 3 turns. I'm starting to think I may have grinded a bit too much. Actually, no. No amount of grinding is too much if it helps me bypass how annoying this game is. Good few bosses though. I like their designs. It's definitely a step up from the earlier ones. If they can't keep the game good, at least make the bosses decent. We save the princess and Gordon ditches us again. Man, he reminds me of my friend, ditching the group for a girl. I know you're watching this, Nathan. You could have at least come to Topgolf with us. Come on, man. The Coliseum was pretty decent, although pretty short with no boss at the end. Oh, side complaint, spells in this game are extremely weak for both enemies and the player. The most I've seen a spell do was 400 damage, but I had a crap ton of buffs on my character. Usually when enemies cast a spell, even if it's a high level, it'll do around like 160 damage at most. It's pathetic. It's much easier just to grind your strength and HP like crazy because it's just way faster. Anyway, take another shot because we're going back to Altair. At least the desert battle background is beautiful, but these enemies aren't. We go to Altair and they tell us to go to Castle Flynn again. Oh my god. Once we're there, useless Leela joins the party. She's like the one person in your friend group that no one likes, but nobody has the guts to tell her to go away, so they just tolerate her. Leela is so weak, she does 0 damage with fists. That's just so sad. We fight another boss, and he's actually pretty good. I like his design. I hope his design isn't reused as an enemy later on in the game. That would totally suck. I beat him in 3 turns though. Princess Hilda dumps exposition on us and gives us a bunch of keywords we won't ever use again. Nice. I then go through a boring dungeon under the castle that looks like every other dungeon in this game. Notice how the only good dungeons had unique themes and were relatively short. This dungeon is so bad it doesn't even have a boss at the end. Anyway, after we acquire the mask, we go to Mysidia to put the mask on the statue. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, we have to get this white mask. I don't know why, because I wasn't paying attention, but yeah, that's what we went in the dungeon for. I really like the aesthetic of Mysidia. It stands out a lot from the others. The random encounters in this overworld though are super annoying. I hate the black flans. I'm convinced they're impossible to kill. Anyway, we gotta go to this tropical island for another dungeon. Keep in mind, the game hardly tells you where to go most of the time. It was doing relatively well at directing you places for most of the game, but around this part of the game is where it neglects giving you directions at all. Or maybe it's just because I'm too tired to absorb this dialogue and I miss where to go. At this point, I was playing at like 2 AM, so yeah. Thank God the game is almost over though. I enter this dungeon, and it's another boring dungeon. The layout is like every other dungeon with a slightly different aesthetic. It's just an unfun dungeon with boring and slightly annoying enemies. Also, most of the chests in these dungeons are useless because they only give me spells and stuff I already have. Or weapon types no one in their right mind would ever use, like knives and stuff. Which, knives are forgotten by the game because the last variant you get is nowhere near as strong as a sword. But yeah, these dungeons feel like they were designed in RPG Maker. You know what? That's an insult to RPG Maker. I've played some good RPG Maker dungeons. But man, I really have too many spells in my inventory, and for what? We fight the boss and it's literally just a group of enemies that we already fought in the dungeon. Except, get this, there's 4 of them. Looks like both me and the game are getting lazy. The only difference is it's 1 AM and I'm suffering from this game's laziness. Welp, anyway, time to beat them on auto battle. I swear these slimes are the worst variant of enemies in the game. They won't die. They only get hurt by critical hits and they're annoying as hell. In fact, the enemies are starting to get really gimmicky and annoying, like the werewolves, which occasionally stun you. Cockatrices, which are a recolor of my favorite enemy in the game. Despite this, they're probably one of the worst enemies just in the game, period. There's a chance that they'll turn your character to stone if they hit you. It's abhorrent. We go to the cave of Mysidia and I liked it at first. Still a generic FF2 type dungeon layout, but at least the aesthetic was unique, and the battle background as always was phenomenal. Despite the good first impression, this dungeon quickly became my least favorite dungeon, not just in the game, but in almost all of the RPGs I've ever played. I was getting legitimately mad, like I was raging. First of all, the layout gets increasingly more annoying and time-wasty as the dungeon goes on. The enemies are ridiculously strong here, which is really odd. For one, it's a huge difficulty spike, and two, once you're done with this dungeon, the enemies and dungeons go back to being really easy again. I'd argue this is the second hardest dungeon in the game, and for what? The Marlboro will stun your party, and they can literally just slowly kill your entire party, and you're just forced to sit there and watch. Black Flans are super hard to kill, like I said earlier. Gas and Wraiths will steal a huge chunk of your HP no matter how much you have. And Changers will occasionally swap your HP with theirs, so your party member will be left with like 130 HP. Just look at my notes when I was playing through this section of the game. That's all you need to see to know this part of the game was bad. Anyway, yeah, I die, and I was anticipating having to redo the entire thing. Luckily, the devs and the remaster were nice enough to only send us to the start of the room we died in. Man, now I'm really glad I didn't replay this game in Dawn of Souls. Anyway, yeah, I get stunned again and have to watch my whole party die. At this point, I was getting really angry, which is understandable since playing this game is more of a chore than going to the DMV. But the Marlboro can go jump off a cliff because it's the worst enemy in the game. They suck in almost every Final Fantasy they're in. At this point though, I'm just ready for the game to be over. The dungeon ends on no boss, which you won't complain about this time because I'm just glad it's over. I stock up on a crap ton of items, anticipating this game to undergo a huge difficulty spike. But newsflash, it doesn't. In fact, the next dungeon is super easy, and it's one of my favorites too. We're swallowed by this giant creature, and it's a really cool setting. The battle background is cool, and the scenery is nice. Plus, the enemies aren't annoying, so that's cool. We come across a small society of people living inside of the Leviathan, and we meet Ricard, a dragoon, and he joins us. Unlike the other companions, he's actually useful, so I keep him alive. We fight a worm boss, and he's actually kinda challenging. The dungeon was pretty short, but enjoyable. Notice how all three good dungeons in this game are short and have unique themes that stand out from one another. I really enjoyed that dungeon though, probably my favorite in the game. The game finally got something right again. Okay boys, we're at the final stretch, and it's almost over. We enter my city and tower, and I was dreading it, but it's actually pretty decent. The tower has 4 themes: fire, water, air, and another thing. It's really cool. I don't even care that it was pretty long. Although the water section had some somewhat annoying enemies, I can kind of forgive that. And the dungeon layout is much better than the others. What's even better is there are 3 bosses in this dungeon too. And what's even better is they're actually kinda hard. The last one made me to turn off auto battle and use my brain for once. My only complaint is that the 3 bosses were just recolored versions of the Hillgeigus enemy. But I can forgive that. This is probably my 3rd favorite dungeon in the game. Once we're done with that, we get the Ultima spell, and a bunch of stat buffs too. And after this, I buy 1,000,000 cottages for some reason. You know, old Pixie, you didn't need to buy 50 million cottages, you could've just gotten elixirs. Stupid. Now we have to go back to Flynn. The enemies in the overworld finally got stronger, took them long enough. We go to the castle and there's a giant whirlwind, controlled by the Emperor, threatening to destroy the town. The Wyvernig, oh my god. Plot relevance, it came back! Apparently the Wyvernig we placed earlier gets a comeback and it hatches into a Wyvern, which is gonna fly us into the Cyclone. Anyway, before I enter, I visit this absolute Chad, and he gives us an OP weapon, the Blood Sword. The Blood Sword the dude gave us is absolutely overpowered. It bypasses any defense the enemies have, and it takes their health. This is a detail that will certainly come back in the finale, trust me. Anyway, we go into the Cyclone and go through the dungeon. It's actually pretty good, although pretty short. Looks like they finally remembered how to design dungeons near the end of the game. Sadly, Ricard is starting to become obsolete, so I just kinda let him die. He did his part, and now he's dead. Fun fact, I used the Emperor sprite as a reference for Pixa in the thumbnail. I don't know, I just thought you guys might want to know that for whatever reason. Anyway, we kill the Emperor, but I know there's more because this game refuses to end. Our characters do this goofy celebration dance. Look at this loser Leela sitting in the corner. But it's cut short by the news that the Dark Knight has declared himself the Emperor and he's sending troops. He's sending troops to what exactly? I don't know, I was not paying attention. Anyway, we meet up with the old dude from the beginning of the game who taught us about airships, and he dies, what? Man, everybody's dropping like flies, and for what? Oh, okay then. Man, this really just is a beta of Final Fantasy VI. At least we get an airship now, you know. The last hour of the game. We go to the next dungeon and it's alright, just another boring Final Fantasy II dungeon. What can I say? They all look the same to me. And there's no boss either. We meet with the Dark Knight, Leon, and he has a tantrum and creates another dungeon for us to suffer through. I just want it to end already, please. This game insists on not ending. You know what, screw it. I'm gonna take a break and eat some breakfast. Ricard leaves, which is fine by me, because he got useless near the end, like I already said. Off topic, but holy crap, I just got really intense deja vu out of nowhere. Anyway, I'm back. Time to get the strongest sword in the game thanks to a guide, which isn't actually the strongest sword in the game. That title belongs to the blood sword. We go to Jade's Passage, which is the entrance dungeon to the actual final dungeon. I hate entrance dungeons that don't let you save before the final dungeon, because when you die in the final dungeon, you have to do both dungeons all over again. At least the entrance cutscene looks beautiful though. But this dungeon is so lame, and the enemies are sort of annoying. It's like every other mediocre FF2 dungeon. A crap ton of doors and winding paths, useless chests, bad enemies, and a bland layout and theme. At the end, we get teleported to the actual final dungeon in the game. The final dungeon is the second worst dungeon. Let me tell you, it is the epitome of the worst aspects of all the dungeons in this game. Pointless doors that lead nowhere, winding maze-like pathways that are only there to pad out the game time, and annoying enemies. Insta-death enemies actually, even worse. Like seriously, I can't stress enough how annoying these enemies are. Half of them insta-kill you or rob a good portion of your health. It's insane. I have no idea how people beat this game before checkpoints were added in the remaster. I just have to push through though, because we're at the final stretch. At least the theme and aesthetic of the dungeon is really nice. And the battle background, oh my gosh, it's gorgeous. Probably the best looking one so far. And the reason why I say so far is because the one later will be better. Trust me. Anyway, I trudge through this dungeon and it's really uneventful. For a final dungeon, it just feels like a regular dungeon, but slightly longer. Oh yeah, by the way, Leon is here. By the way, he's useless. I just let him die. You know, I don't feel like babysitting him. Anyway, I get to the final boss, and oh my gosh, this room is beautiful. He goes on some short but boring monologue, then we have to fight him. This is easily the best battle background in the entire game. It's amazing. Anyway, we beat the boss in 2 turns. No, I'm not exaggerating, really. You probably expected something more, you know, climactic, huh? But nah. Final Fantasy II doesn't deserve that. This is why I said the blood sword would come in handy later, because it turns out it can kill the final boss in 2 turns. He starts seething about his loss, but I just tune him out. I'm so done. We get a last farewell from our companions. It shows us all the characters that died throughout the story, and it actually kind of made me feel something. Why am I feeling something? Am I sad this game is over? No. It can't be. I hate this game. No. No, 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 no. While current Pixa is having an existential crisis, I think we should do some reflection on this game while the credits roll. Is this the worst mainline Final Fantasy game? I don't know, honestly. 13 and 8 are some pretty solid contenders. Final Fantasy II's main issue is that it's just not fun. It's just a slog to get through. There are glimpses of greatness here and there, but it pales in comparison to the games before or after it. I can really appreciate how they tried to change up the formula from the first game. It's really not something they had to do, but they just did it anyway. But it doesn't really matter if it just doesn't end up being fun. Final Fantasy II is a mess. Final Fantasy II is tedious. Final Fantasy II is a disaster, but it's still a Final Fantasy. It introduced the Ultima spell, Chocobos, and it pioneered the stat-based level progression later RPGs would use much better. And for that, I'm glad this game exists. I know I trashed on this game a lot, but I feel as if the game should be more appreciated. Because at the end of the day, it's an important piece of gaming history whether you like it or not. For my final rating, I'll give the story a 4 out of 10, the gameplay a 2 out of 10, the music an 8 out of 10, the mechanics a 1 out of 10, and its replayability a 4 out of 10. And my final rating for this game is a 3 out of 10. Awful. I'd love to thank you guys for 1,000 subscribers. This video was actually pretty easy to make, and I sort of had fun making it too. Of course, I really don't like this game, but I really appreciated looking back on it critically. Anyway, I gotta go play Fallout 4 now. So see you guys on the flip side. Peace out.